Thank you. By starting this session, I would like first to thank you so much, those of you remaining here at this time of the day. I understand this city is very beautiful, and the waters are great. The swimming pools are wonderful, and some people may have been tempted to see those waters. So those of you who are here, I thank you very much for doing this. I would say Africa is grateful for you remaining and listening to this session. I want, of course, to thank Dr. Ibtisam, all the team of the Emirates Policy Center for really giving us a chance to put a case for Africa. This is something that we value very much, and we believe that this is just the beginning of an enduring, productive relationship between Africa and naturally the Emirates and beyond this region, so important to the world. Thank you very much for giving us this chance. My name is Adam Agai. I am from Senegal, West Africa. I don't know if most of you know about Africa. I have been to Africa, sub-Saharan Africa or not, but the reality of Africa is somehow familiar to most of you. In the past 25 years, and if we go back to the end of the Cold War in 1989, Africa was somehow left for dead as a region. At the end of the Cold War, most ideological partners that operated in Africa left it overnight, and Africa was somehow alone, subcontracted to the technocratic institutions like the World Bank, the IMF, and it was a continent that somehow was seen as without prospect. To the point, in the year 2000, the famous British magazine, The Economist, published a report, cover story, titled Africa, the Hopeless Continent. That was in December 2000. Nobody believed that Africa would come from the wilderness at that time. But suddenly, things started changing progressively due to the interaction of Africa with the world, due to globalization, and progressively, there seems to be today a rush towards Africa, a scramble for Africa. And the same magazine, The Economist, that designated Africa as the hopeless continent in 2000, published in May 2011 another cover story, titled this time around, Africa, the Rising Continent. So what has changed? Probably a lot. This is some of the aspects we are going to discuss here. The many aspects that have changed have to do with the resources discovered in Africa, the arrival of countries like China becoming a major trading partner of Africa, the fact that natural resources are discovered across the continent, and the demographic, the migration, all the issues, whether you talk about terrorism, all the transversal issues, including even health issues, involve Africa. Investment, by the way, becoming very important towards Africa. I would signal, for instance, the presence of a lady who represents here Africa 50, which is a homegrown African institution that is attracting investment to developing infrastructure. Mrs. Wainaina, she is here in the room. So those things are happening. There is a new dream for Africa. Is it a dream or a nightmare? So in order to really see what's going on in Africa, we are going to try to have the explanation from the people we have here, very seasoned professional. To my immediate right is Mr. Victor Borges, former Minister of Foreign Affairs of Cape Verde. You may not know Cape Verde. It's a small island off the coast of West Africa, but it's a democratic country. It's a country that has been developing nicely over the years, and it's a respected country across the world for its achievement. So he will be here to discuss in a candid way how he sees Africa. Also, to my left also, Mr. Abdullah, Dr. Abdullah from Mauritania. He's a scholar from the University of Nouakchott, Mauritania. Mauritania is neighbor to my own country, Senegal, and he's here with us today for this conversation that we are going to have. I would like that we start with the conversation between us here, and then we give the floor to the room in order to have an interactive discussion to ensure that if there are things that you want to clarify, we'll be able to do so. So naturally, I'm tempted to ask the question that most of the people in the room may be willing to ask. First of all, is Africa rising or still the hopeless continent? I would like to start with you, Dr. Abdullah, please.
شكرا سيد الرئيس. في الحقيقة أنا أعتقد أن إفريقيا قارة صاعدة، بل اعتقادي أنها هي مستقبل العالم، وهذا الحكم ليس مبنيا على فراغ، ولا بد أن نتذكر جيدا أن النهضة الكبرى التي حدثت في أوروبا وفي الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية، هذه النهضة حدثت على أكتاف إفريقيا باستخدام الثروات الإفريقية وبالعضلات الإفريقية، أيضا بتجارة العبيد التي وقعت في إفريقيا في القرن الخامس بداية من القرن السادس عشر والسابع عشر. فالرأسمالية الكبرى والحداثة الصناعية الكبرى التي عرفها العالم كانت على أكتاف إفريقيا. واليوم هناك فرصة قادمة للمستقبل في هذه القارة التي فعلا عانت من كثير من المصاعب، من الحروب الأهلية، من الانقلابات العسكرية، من المجاعات إلى آخره، ولكنها الآن تعطي وجها آخر. بلدان نامية متطورة، بعضها يسمى الآن بلدان صاعدة، يكفي الحديث فقط عن جنوب إفريقيا كقوة صاعدة في العالم، في منطقة شرق إفريقيا، في منطقة غرب إفريقيا. فهذه منطقة صاعدة، والعالم اليوم كله يخطب ودها من الهند إلى الصين إلى أوروبا إلى أمريكا، وهناك الآن مبادرات مؤسسية كبيرة في هذا المجال. فأنا أعتقد باختصار أن إفريقيا ليست فقط صاعدة، وإنما إفريقيا هي قوة المستقبل.
Mr. Borges.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, to have the opportunity to share my thoughts on Africa with you. And I would like to thank Ms. Ebetsam Eketbi for inviting me to be here. Cape Verde is far away from Abu Dhabi, but it was not so complicated to arrive here. Concerning the question, is Africa rising? We have in the press those fashionable words that will come and will disappear, and people like the sketchy words, and sometimes we do not know much what they mean. So we do not have all the indicators to arise when development is becoming is so strong to become a rising country. Anyway, what I could say is that Africa is moving forward. It's moving forward, but it faces also a lot of challenges. A lot of challenge, and it has to develop capacity to face and solve all those challenges. And Africa has a lot of potential. We could see the size of land mass, the surrounding seas and oceans, and the trade routes and proximity to Europe, Americas, and Asia, and Gulf is not far away from Africa, but Africa also has a lot of natural resources, land for agriculture and connected activities, and biodiversity. We could speak also about tourism and its young population. All these constitute a huge potential. But we have this challenge of transforming potential in reality. Some people in Africa tend to think that we are late in transforming this potential in reality, and this is a challenge for governance, for development management, and I believe that Africa needs to renew its leadership, to be able to face all this challenge, and for that, I also believe that we need to improve our institutions, our regulation framework to be able to welcome those investments arriving in Africa and to harness them. I do not know if we have the capacity now to harness all the drivers that are operating in Africa, but we have this challenge because if not, we can miss control of African development. So all this potential exists, and we have to face a lot of challenge to take advantage of this potential for Africa development, for African security, and for people in Africa that deserve better development. For this, I would emphasize a point that is very important for me, which is human capacity. Human capacity, when we speak about human capacity, we tend to speak about governance, public administration, and so and so. But I believe that capacity, we must see it in private sector, social organization, and also in the field of science and technology. Because if we speak about natural resource, we dramatically need strong capacity at the scientific, technological level to master the natural resource. And sometimes African countries which have natural resource. I'm coming from a country who a lot of people say you're lucky because you do not have natural resource, and people tend to give this fairy-like explanation of curse, natural resource curse, which is a fairy-like explanation to hide the real challenge that we need to face to make natural resources a real asset for development and mastering the process of development.
If you follow the two presentations, you have somehow a divided view of Africa. On the one hand, Dr. Abdullah is saying that Africa can claim the 21st century, that this century will be Africa's, and some institutions, including the World Bank, they state this approach. Even if you look at the rush towards Africa, this scramble over Africa's resources and land indicates somehow a changing approach to the continent. For instance, in years past, African nations, they were not invited to big gathering like the G7, the G8, but since 2001, Africa has a seat. African countries are invited to the G20. You see the Chinese president coming all the time across Africa, Mr. Macron. Today in France, there are African leaders, part of the celebration of the 100th anniversary of the end of the First World War, in recognition of the role of Africans during that war. So those things are indication that maybe something is changing. And this is further buttressed by the fact that the natural resources, but also the dimension of a continent of 30 million kilometers square, the demographic that will be 2 billion inhabitant people, 61% of the available world arable land are in Africa, and all other factors, including the negative, the interlope factors, the fact that terrorism, Africa has become a feeding ground for those forms of extremism, makes it somehow attractive. But to get closer to this discussion about power, that has been the thread of the day, what would you see as the role of Africa to becoming a power to be recognized? What are the strengths Africa has to translate into real power, the potential power that the continent has, and that has been depicted in the presentation that I just made? Dr. Abdullah.
في الحقيقة أنا أود أولاً أن أبين أمر أساسي، لأننا نتحدث هنا في بلد عربي، وأنا أنتمي إلى بلد عربي وإفريقي. فنحن عندما نتحدث عن إفريقيا في هذه المنطقة العربية، فنحن في الحقيقة نتحدث عن أنفسنا، لأن أغلب سكان العالم العربي هم من الأفارقة، وأغلب مناطق العالم العربي هي جغرافيا في إفريقيا. فنحن لا نتحدث، حتى لا أتحدث فقط عن نفسي باعتباري أنتمي إلى منطقة غرب وشمال إفريقيا معا، ولكن تقريبا كل العرب هم بمعنى ما من الأفارقة. ثم إن التحديات الاستراتيجية الكبرى المطروحة اليوم على العالم العربي كلها ترتبط بشكل أو بآخر بإفريقيا، سواء تعلق الأمر بهذه المنطقة، منطقة الخليج العربي والجزيرة العربية، التي يرتبط أمنها الحيوي بمنطقة القرن الإفريقي وشرق إفريقيا، أي بالضفة الأخرى للبحر الأحمر والمحيط الهندي، أو تعلق الأمر بمنطقة شمال إفريقيا التي هي مرتبطة ارتباطا جوهريا وعضويا بمنطقة الساحل الإفريقي من ليبيا إلى موريتانيا، أو تعلق الأمر بالدول العربية الكبرى المحورية التي هي مصر، التي أيضا يرتبط أمنها الاستراتيجي والمائي والحيوي كلها بشرق إفريقيا، أي طبعا أمن مصر الاستراتيجي والمائي مرتبط بالنيل الذي ينبع من شرق إفريقيا. فهذا مهم جدا حتى أضع عندما أتحدث عن إفريقيا فأنا أتحدث بالطاقيتين، الطاقية الإفريقية والطاقية العربية. طبعا أنا أعود إلى سؤالكم.
Before you go to my question, what you said, I want to prod you on that. You didn't mention Abu Dhabi, which has become recently an important player, for instance, in the crisis between Eritrea and Ethiopia. And we have seen that somehow, due to Abu Dhabi's role, there has been progress. So to what extent the role of external power can help Africa translate the potential power into real power?
هذا سؤال مهم.
Through peace and progress.
هذا جزء من هذا التحول الذي ذكرته لهذه الطاقة الكامنة في إفريقيا، واعتقادي أن العنوان الذي استخدم الإخوة هنا في المركز كان موفقا جدا. هناك فعلا طاقة كامنة، وهناك انتباه إلى هذه الطاقة الكامنة في هذه المنطقة. بالفعل بعد تدخل في اليمن الذي اقتضاه التمرد الحوثي، البلدان في هذه المنطقة شعرت بأهمية منطقة شرق إفريقيا، وشعرت بارتباط أمن هذا الإقليم بهذه المنطقة. ولقد أشرتم إلى الدور الذي قامت به السعودية والإمارات في تسوية هذه المعضلة الكبرى في القرن الإفريقي، التي هي معضلة الصراع الإريتري الإثيوبي الذي كان يشل هذه المنطقة الحيوية عوامل طويلة. ولا شك أن هذا الصلح كان عنصرا حاسما ومهما الآن في تطوير هذه الطاقة الجديدة الموجودة في إفريقيا. الآن التوجه العربي الجديد نحو إفريقيا أصبح حقيقة قائمة، طبعا الأمر لا يتعلق فقط بالمصالحة بين بلدان القرن الإفريقي، هناك انفتاح مهم جدا أيضا لمصر وتطبيع العلاقات بين مصر وإثيوبيا لسد مشكل جوهري كان مطروحا. تبقى المشكلة الكبرى الآن مطروحة علينا في منطقة الساحل وشمال إفريقيا. الأزمة الليبية ما زالت موجودة، وارتباطها بمنطقة الساحل الليبي موجود، وأيضا بالجانب الآخر الغربي المرتبط بمنطقة مالي وحدودها مع موريتانيا والجزائر.
Please, on the overall question of translation of potential power into real power.
طيب كيف نحول هذه الطاقة إلى قوة حقيقية بالنسبة لهذه المنطقة؟ أنا اعتقادي أن هناك مدخلان أساسي. المدخل الأول هو مدخل سياسي. أولا لا بد من الدول الإفريقية أن تتبنى رؤية استراتيجية عملية حقيقية لتحويل هذه الطاقة إلى عنصر قوة فعلية، وبالفعل هناك جهد لا بأس به في هذا الأمر، هناك نقلة لا بأس بها في هذا المستوى، النقلة المؤسسية. معنا هنا معي الوزير والأمين العام الأستاذ عمر موسى، وكان فاعلا في مرحلة تأسيس الاتحاد الإفريقي عندما كان وزيرا لخارجية مصر، وأيضا كان له الدور الفاعل في تنمية هذه العلاقة الخاصة بين العالم العربي وإفريقيا. حتى أتي العنصر الثاني اعتقادي أن فكرة تطوير الشراكات الدولية مع إفريقيا ومؤسستها أنها أيضا مدخل أساسي لتحويل هذه الطاقة إلى قوة. الآن نرى المبادرة الصينية الإفريقية، الهندية الإفريقية، البرازيلية الإفريقية، فإفريقيا دخلت الأجندة الدولية، واعتباري أنها لا سيكون عنصرا فاعلا وحاسما ودافعا في تأسيس هذه الموقع القوة الإفريقي الجديد.
It's clear that development begins at home, even though we have the outside partners. So what we have to do within Africa to make sure that this potential power becomes a reality in practical terms, including for the African population. You have been Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Borges, of your country. You've been part of the discussion within Africa, including at the highest level within the African Union, which is the continental body, the political body for Africa, to discuss the issues about Africa. When we used to talk about power in Africa, we used to talk about power grabbing, we used to talk about brutal power, military coup. These things have been changing because since 2000, when Africa talked to the rest of the world, it had entered into a form of partnership whereby it is going to fix its own internal problem by promoting good governance, democracy, and peace and stability in exchange of more investment. And that's how the 54 African countries, by the way, when you think of Africa, never think of a single continent, consider that there are 54 countries. So there is the African Union. You have been part of all those discussions. How can the role of the continent become stronger through regional integration at the continental or regional level?
Thank you. But before answering this question, I'm going to comment on this intervention of United Arab Emirates to facilitate peace in Ethiopia, in Eritrea, which is a good example of a positive intervention. But sometimes also we have what I would call perverse presence in Africa that disturb and upset the stability of African countries. I am saying this to highlight the need for African countries to manage foreign actors in Africa. I believe they are all welcome, but African states, African governments need to develop more the skill to manage this intervention, to, even when it's economic intervention, to allow foreign investors to win money because it's all about money, but also to allow African countries to benefit from this foreign intervention. concerning the
African Union,
African Union and the African unity. This is a huge topic that represents also challenges for African. And I believe that before speaking about African Union, about regional economic communities, the unity will begin at national level, the way we manage nation states. And we need to improve this management at national level to align it with the objective of integration of unity. And in my view, African Union has made a lot of progress, but it is still facing a lot of challenge to be more effective in helping member states to achieve this ideal of integration of unity. At the same time, at the level of regional economic communities, we still have also this challenge of aligning, because RECs, regional economic communities, are in between nations and African Union, and we need to align all those interventions to give them more consistency, more coherence, because I believe that like every continent, African continent has this challenge of putting together energy, putting together inspiration to bring about more security, more peace, and more development.
I think you have largely alluded to the points I wanted to discuss here. Before I turn to the floor, I would like to ask you a question more specifically geared towards what nations like Abu Dhabi can have as reasons to come to Africa and do business with Africa. Before saying that, I would observe that we are here today. I hope this will be told to Dr. Ebtissam. As Africa, we are ahead of the curve, at least for one reason, against one region of the world, because Latin America is not here. I hope that maybe next time Latin America will be here. So Africa is here. It's an indication of the interest that Africa generates. So what would you say a country like Abu Dhabi or other regions that are interested into Africa should consider as reason why they should approach and come into Africa? Dr. Abdullah.
أولا الإمارات كما شرحت اليوم الدكتورة ابتسام بلد استطاع ونجح أن يبني فعلا عناصر قوة ذكية في السنوات الأخيرة، وهي من البلدان الفاعلة الآن بقوة في العالم العربي من أجل هدفين أساسيين. الهدف الأول هو إعادة بناء المنظومة العربية نفسها، لأن هذه المنظومة العربية مسها كثير من التضعضع ومن الانهيار في السنوات الأخيرة لأسباب معروفة، بعضها داخلي وبعضها يتعلق بالتدخل الخارجي إلى آخره. والهدف الثاني هو تنويع عناصر الشراكة الاستراتيجية مع العالم انطلاقا من فهم ذكي لتفاعلات النظام الدولي وتحولات النظام الدولي. وفق هذه القراءة الذكية والجديدة للنظام الدولي طبعا تكتسي إفريقيا محور أساسي من محاور الاهتمام الاستراتيجي الإماراتي، وبالفعل أصبح هناك اهتمام حقيقي وجاد ومتزايد بالقارة الإفريقية من منظور مزدوج. أولا المنظور المصالح الاستراتيجية الحيوية، أشرت سابقا إلى بعضها في إطار تداخل الأمن الإقليمي العربي والخليجي بصفة خاصة مع الأوضاع الإفريقية، فنحن في جبهات مشتركة ومترابطة شديدة الترابط. ثم هناك أيضا الاستراتيجية الاقتصادية، لأن الإمارات تتبنى أيضا الدبلوماسية الاقتصادية الفاعلة، وهي إذا لم تخن الأرقام توجد في مقدمة الدول من حيث مساعدة البلدان النامية. فأيضا هناك رهان جديد على أنه مع المساعدة يجب البحث عن فرص شراكة اقتصادية ناجعة، وهناك فهم واضح وإدراك واضح على أن إفريقيا طاقة مستقبلية واعدة، وبحضور وتركيز حضور الإمارات في إفريقيا أيضا هناك مصالح حقيقية. فإذا هناك الهدفان الذي ذكرت، هدف يتعلق بالمنطقة العربية، وهدف يتعلق أيضا بالرؤية الاستراتيجية الإماراتية الخاصة بالنظام الدولي.
Very quickly, Mr. Borges.
Okay. What I believe, and I'm not an expert on the relationship between Gulf states and Africa, and I'm trying to put forward 2 or 3 thoughts in African perspective. And in the African perspective, I believe that development is the main concern. So this partnership should go around this goal of development. And when we speak about development, we must be aware that development has all to do with peace, stability, security, and democracy. When development fails, we have impact in all levels in domains of society. So it's around development. When we speak about development, people tend to think about aid. I am not against aid, and still I believe that aid needs to be re-engineered to be more development effective, but I would put forward partnership, economic partnership, win-win economic partnership between Gulf states, Gulf countries, and Africa. Win-win means that both sides must win something. Africa has a story of unbalanced economic partnership. So I believe that we need to learn from this past experience to be innovative, to be creative with a new partnership that could be beneficial to both sides.
Thank you. Before I give the floor to the room, I would like to ask a question. Who among you has visited Africa? If you could raise your hand. Okay, that's a fair number. So I think the remaining, you should start considering coming to Africa, because there is a form of opening up of this continent. If you look at this part of the world, this relationship turns around various sectors, including getting votes from Africa to get the World Cup organization or the Expo 2020, to have a vote at the UN Security Council, at the UN General Assembly, and other places. So I think that there is vast room to cooperate. So I would like, in order to get from you your thought, what you have learned when you visited Africa, or those of you who want to know more about African challenges or issues, to take the floor. Please identify yourself and be short and brief so that we can have an interactive discussion to end in time, because I'm sure you are tired. If there is anyone who has a question, please identify yourself and we'll give you the floor. Have I seen? Nabil? Yes, Mr. Fahmi, please.
Thank you.
Thank you
very much.
With pleasure.
I wasn't sure whether to put up my hand, having been to Africa or not, since I am an Arab African country, so I live actually in Africa. But anyway, this is an interesting discussion. Arab-African cooperation actually goes back to the 70s, when we had the first Arab-African ministerial meetings and summit meetings, so it's a long-standing. However, the points made by your panelists are correct. They tended to be either from the Arab countries focusing on Arab countries in Africa, focusing on Africa, or those that were close to Africa. What's new is what we see now in terms of the security dimension as well, and I completely applaud that. My question, however, to my African colleagues who are not Arabs, how best, and this goes mostly to Mr. Borg, how best can Africa promote itself to the Arab world? I mean, I know how the Arabs should speak, but I'm really interested in engaging more Arabs to be interested in Africa, and I think the African countries need to also project themselves in a fashion that is more comprehensive to the Arab world. Thank you.
Okay, so somehow you are saying how Africa should deploy its soft power towards the Arab world. Please, the answer. Yes, oh, you want to take all the question? Okay, I think that gentleman wanted the floor. Who is that one? Please, yes. Please tell us who you are and make it short, please.
I'm Baga Korani from Egypt.
Okay.
And I want to ask my friend Abdullah to be specific and tell us, after about 60 years of independence, how come African power is still potential? When will it be real? To tell me 1, 2, 3, what are the obstacles that are preventing this potentiality from becoming a fact?
Thank you. That's gentleman, please. Why, in the meantime, you can take the floor.
I think my light is red.
Eh?
I think my
Mr. Saad Ajmi.
No,
No,
here.
this one, eh? Yes, okay, please.
Yes, the one is red. Okay.
Yes,
سؤالي إلى أستاذ عبد الله. من المعروف هناك تعاون اقتصادي تجاري بين الصين وإفريقيا، وأيضا نعرف هناك تعاون تجاري واقتصادي بين دول الخليج وإفريقيا. فكيف إلى حد ما نقارن بين هاتين العلاقتين أو هذين التعاونين؟ شكرا.
Yes, please. Yes. Yes, please, identify yourself.
Yes, thank you. سؤالي إلى الأستاذ أيضا عبد الله, and I will ask it also in English. باختصار, إلى متى الجرح النازف في الأزمة بين الجزائر والمغرب لأكثر من 40 عام بين بلدين شقيقين جارين فشلت كل الجهود لإنهاء هذه الأزمة. It's concerning the Western Sahara. For over 40 years, where is the African Union? Where is Mauritania? Where is the North African countries to solve this problem before the world interferes like they did between Iraq and Kuwait and in Yemen and in Syria and everywhere? Shukran.
Thank you. Okay, we try to answer this first batch of questions and we go for the second round to conclude. We will be concluding on time 6:30. So please bear with us 15 more minutes and we will be done. Please, Abdullah, you have a lot of questions to answer.
طيب أنا سأرد على صديقين بهجت وسعد. في الحقيقة السؤال الذي طرحه الدكتور بهجت سؤال فيه جوابه. هو يطرح السؤال: لماذا بعد 60 سنة إفريقيا تراوح مكانها؟ ما هو الذي يعوق دون بناء القوى الإفريقية؟ الدكتور بهجت يعرف أكثر من غيره أن الوضع الإفريقي أو الوضع الذي مرت به إفريقيا بعد الاستقلال كان وضعا كارثيا. إفريقيا حالة خاصة. نحن في العالم العربي نتحدث كثيرا عن سايس بيكو وعن تقطيع أوصال الأمة العربية إلى آخره، ولكن ما حدث في إفريقيا لا يقارن بالعالم العربي. الهندسة الجغرافية التي وقعت في إفريقيا عند استقلالها لا تستجيب لأي منطق مهما كان، وتركت بؤرا للفتنة والحروب والصراع في كل مكان من إفريقيا. ولا زالت إفريقيا تعيش هذا المأزق الأصلي. هناك مفكر وعالم اجتماع كبير كاميرون اسمه أشيل مبمبا، كتب كتاب جميل جدا حول سماه نقد العقل الزنجي، كريتيك لا ريزون ناغر. طبعا هذه تعرفون مقارنة واضحة مع كتاب كانت الشهير نقد العقل الخالص. يبين على أن إفريقيا تحمل هذا العنف الأصلي الذي وجدت فيه. فالوضع الإفريقي لا بد أن نفهمه بهذا المعنى الحقيقي، أن مشاكل إفريقيا مشاكل صحيح أننا يجب أن لا نضع كل شيء على الاستعمار، ولكن هناك خطأ أصلي وقع ما زالت إفريقيا تدفعه. ومع ذلك إفريقيا اليوم لا شك أنها أحسن بكثير من السابق. هناك السؤال الذي طرح باختصار، السؤال الذي طرح حول المقارنة بين إفريقيا وفي علاقتها بالصين وإفريقيا في علاقتها بالخليج. أود فقط أن أقول أن الصين تجعل إفريقيا على رأس أولوياتها. شاك أتالي وهو سياسي وكاتب فرنسي مشهور يقول أنه بعد 50 سنة ستكون إفريقيا صفراء وستكون أوروبا سوداء، أي أن حركة الهجرة ستجعل إفريقيا صفراء، لأن الآن في استيطان صيني حقيقي. لا توجد مدينة كبرى في إفريقيا إلا توجد فيها جالية صينية كبيرة جدا للغاية، وهذه ظاهرة متنامية. الآن في فرنسا أصبحوا يخافون الخطر. مثلا في إفريقيا الفرنكفونية صارت نسبة الصينيين أعلى من نسبة الفرنسيين، والاستثمارات الصينية الآن في إفريقيا تتجاوز الاستثمارات الصينية الفرنسية والأوروبية إجمالا، وهذا تحول كبير جدا. طبعا بالنسبة لمنطقة الخليج الأمر ما زال في بدايته. صحيح أن الدول العربية وبصفة خاصة الدول الخليجية لأنها هي مصدر الثروة الأساسية ساهمت مساهمة كبيرة في اقتصاد إفريقيا وفي تنمية إفريقيا، وهناك صناديق الآن عديدة، صناديق عربية إفريقية تساهم في هذا المجال، ولكن الأمر ما زال في بدايته ونرجو أن الأمور تتحسن. السؤال الأخير متعلق بقيد الصحراء، رغم أن هذا الموضوع لا يتعلق تماما بإفريقيا بالمنظور الذي كنا نقول. طبعا هذه مشكلة مع الأسف تلغم كل البناء المغاربي، وكل المشروع المغاربي معطل نتيجة لهذه الصراع ما بين المغرب والجزائر. ولكن نقول على الأقل رغم أنه يجب حل هذه المشكل، ورغم أنه طال حسم هذا المشكل الذي طرح على مجلس الأمن والأمم المتحدة وما زال معطلا حتى الآن، ورغم استبشارنا بالمبادرة الأخيرة التي رفعها الملك المغرب محمد السادس قبل يومين من أجل إعادة فتح العلاقات وتجديد الصلات من أجل التغلب على هذا المشكل بين المغرب والجزائر، وبالتالي تسوية هذا الموضوع في هذا الإطار. مع ذلك نحن على الأقل نبتهج بأنه رغم هذا المشكل فالمنطقة ليست فيها حرب. المغرب والجزائر لم يتحاربان رغم هذا المشكل، في حين أنه في بلدان كثيرة أخرى أبسط مشكل حدودي يولد حربا طاحنة، ومع ذلك هذا النزاع طال كثيرا ويجب أن يحل، وبدون حله لا مغرب عربي.
We want to finish on time. Please, could you tell us about soft power? Okay. Why Africa is not able to sell herself towards this part of the world?
How best Africa should promote itself in Arab world. I believe that this promotion should begin at a national level, doing better governance, promoting development, promoting peace and stability. Because if you do not have this condition, it's very difficult to promote yourself. So if African countries have in mind the idea of promoting themselves to the Arab world, but also to other countries in the world, I believe that peace, stability, security, development, and governance, without that, without those elements, it will be always difficult. After this, I believe that Arab African countries, as Egypt, as Sudan, as Morocco, as Mauritania, has a leading role to play here to bridge the two continents and showing that it's not necessarily a continent for aid, but it must be a continent for economic partnership. One obstacle that prevents somehow people to wake up for Africa, Africa is very much linked to the idea of being aid recipient countries. And we need to go beyond this image because it's not only aid. And I believe that there's a lot of opportunity in Africa. So development, security, good governance for ourselves and to allow us better to partner with Arab world, with Europe, with the United States, etc., etc. This question is very important concerning this potential that has difficulty to become reality. I believe it has to do with what I said, with leadership. And I personally think that we need in Africa a renewed and committed leadership to development, to good governance. And this is critical. It will be key to change Africa. And when leadership, all the problems we have had in the past, has to do with the leadership. And if the leadership fails, I believe everything will go with, because all the disgrace of the world will come. So this need for new leadership. And somehow in the 90s, people believed that holding elections will give them the right leadership they need. And 20 years after, we see that this electoral democracy is not enough to generate the committed leadership we need for development. So the remaining question is how to forge a new leadership beyond this electoral idea that electing people, you can have good leaders. Most of the time, good candidates are not, good people are not candidates to election. So we need to discuss this issue of leadership, develop capacity to train people at political partisan level before they are able to win election. Because winning election with the old model in the head, we cannot have even democratic ruling.
Thank you very much. I would have loved to give the floor to another person, but I think that we have reached the time allocated to us. I would like to thank you so much, and again, thanks Dr. Ipisa for giving us the chance to submit the African narrative, which is just unfolding from Africa. We used to hear a lot of conflicts from Africa. These days, you see other aspects of Africa changing the continent. So I thank you so much for your attention, and we hope to have another chance to continue this conversation during this session and, of course, during next session. Thank you so much. My name is Adama Gaye. It was a pleasure being with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Adama. I have an announcement, please. Due to a storm is coming, we are moving the dinner tonight to Al Mawal restaurant on the ground floor. Our people will lead you to Al Mawal restaurant on the ground floor. This dinner tonight is going to take its place.